What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here. There's been fresh updates yesterday from the FA, from the Sun, and finally from Spurs. We will play a minimum now 2 extra games after that Liverpool game at Wembley. The NFL game has been moved to Wembley as well, and it kind of remains to be seen after that when we're going to move into this stadium.
Yeah, it's to be at the moment they had the Man City venue as TBC, so we'll see what happens there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's further delays on the stadium. At the moment, the whole thing's a bit of a mess. The statement was released yesterday, just after the Sun leaked the story. The FA released a statement first before Spurs, which is also a really weird aspect of this whole thing.
Yeah, but before we get into that, let's break it down a bit first. So we were told that we were going to go to Wembley for a year. Fans were kind of a bit excited just because we're getting that new stadium. Not excited to go to Wembley, but excited to kind of start the process of moving into a new stadium. When the tickets came out for that year at Wembley, the fans were kind of held at ransom. They were told, if you don't buy a ticket for Wembley, which a lot of fans didn't want to do, that they won't be getting their seats for the new stadium.
Which they were told originally they wouldn't do. And then when it came to it, they did it anyway, which is a shame.
At the end of the season, we were told, well, Poch came out and he even said that, you know, we need to make early signings. They need to integrate with the squad before pre-season, before the World Cup. That never materialised. Then the ticket prices were announced, the most expensive ticket prices in world football, by winning 2 League Cups in the last 20 years. But then we finally broke that wage structure, which we were crying out for a long time, and kind of everyone was excited. They thought Levy was going to back Poch in the transfer window.
Poch signed a new deal, Kane signed a new deal, Son signed a new deal, and everyone was hoping Eriksen and Dele will follow, but
That hasn't happened
yet, but we're still hoping it will happen.
And then we were told by Donna Cullen that Levy has been treated harshly and that the stadium budget will not affect the transfer budget whatsoever.
Which we'd heard from Levy previously. It's not the first time we'd heard that.
The stadium then gets delayed until 15th of September, which no one really had that much of an issue with, just because that it's just one game and we're going to be in our home.
Also meant we played the majority of our early games away from home and 1 game at Wembley, which wasn't the end of the world. Spurs fans are still excited to move into the new stadium, but you know that the fixture list was released in July, and you've got to know kind of a time plan, a timetable of how the stadium's going to go at that point, you'd think.
And then the world record-breaking transfer window, where we were the first club since the transfer window began not to sign a player, since 2003 that is. Not one club has failed to sign a player since Spurs this summer. And now, what's going on now? Yesterday, the Sun leaked a story that Spurs have made a secret payment to Wembley. I've been told that this figure is going to be 2 million per game, as opposed to last season when we paid 20 million for the whole season. But do you think that if the Sun would have leaked this story, that we would have come out with this story?
When would we have left it to? We'd have to do it sooner rather than later. Clearly the stadium wasn't going to be ready, but we were there before the season started. We could see it wasn't going to be ready. We were talking to a few construction workers around the site. They were pretty convinced that it wasn't going to be ready in time for the 15th of September. We were kind of optimistically thinking that maybe we could get in for the 15th of September and kind of it'll be... the stadium wouldn't be fully ready, but it wouldn't be fully furnished and all that, but we can kind of get some fans in there, maybe not a full capacity even, but it'll be safe enough to, you know, start getting games going there. But clearly even the safety the stadium's not safe enough, which is obviously the biggest issue there, and it's not even ready for that. So the test events have also been delayed. They've also been
test events have been cancelled. The NFL's been moved to Wembley,
and all this is not the end of the world if they would have told us earlier.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point of this video, is that I don't have any problems with the delays being in the stadium. It's construction, this happens. But the way the club have handled it, no transparency whatsoever, completely treating us like customers, you know, treating us like complete shit. They should have told us this a long time ago. I know people from the USA, from Australia, from Norway, who have spent so much money to get to White Hart Lane for the 15th of September, And now what they're just going to lose money. They don't want to come all this way just to go to a game at Wembley.
Exactly.
They came for the opening of the stadium.
Is there an argument to be said that maybe they only just found out now? Or do you not
That
buy
is bollocks. If anyone saying that is complete bollocks. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty certain that they knew this a long time ago.
I had heard rumours a while ago that it wasn't going to be ready.
We've both heard rumours. We've heard rumours from good sources that the stadium was not going to be ready. We heard from construction workers around the site that it's not going to be ready.
But we always believed the club. When the club says it's going to be ready, we always just assumed that it would be. But now they've come out at this late stage, a month before the game, and they've announced that there are actually going to be delays, and it's not going to be. And who knows how long the delays are going to be for? That's the problem. What if it's delayed even more?
My prediction is that I don't think we're going to get in there to 2019.
Which would be awful.
It would be awful.
And then how do you feel about, if that's the case, how do you feel about them selling the season tickets? Or what the club have done as of today is they've refunded the fans who bought season tickets 1/19 of their season ticket for each game that's at Wembley. Do you feel that's enough?
No, I don't feel it's enough, because when they held the fans to ransom, a lot of fans didn't want to go to Wembley for that year. And now they're being forced to go to Wembley again, albeit not as long as a whole season, but still, they should.
No, but the fact is they're not, because they're getting refunds.
Pardon?
They're getting refunds now.
Yeah, they are getting refunds, but I think that they should be offered a full ticket refund, because the whole thing has just been shambolic, and show a bit of solidarity to your fans.
I take that point. If I tend to agree with you if the stadium is delayed till the end of the year. If the stadium is ready for the Man City game, do you still think they should be offering full refunds?
No, I don't. But I don't think it will be ready.
I agree with you. If it's half a season at Wembley, then they probably should. They should be offering refunds to people who thought they were going to be spending a whole season at the new stadium, and if they're going to be spending half the season at a place they don't really particularly want to go, then and it's kind of they bought the ticket under false pretenses.
100%.
So I kind of agree with you there.
And a bit more of bad will from Spurs is that basically at Spurs we got this cup guarantee scheme. What the cup guarantee scheme is, you put your card in, they automatically charge the card as soon as tickets for a cup game has been released. They've been selling this cup guarantee scheme very hard over the past week.
And they were selling it as Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
They were selling it as
cup tickets.
Exactly. And they were selling it knowing full well that the stadium is not going to be ready in time. And that is complete bad will. Just the lack of communication between the Tottenham hierarchy and the fans have been nothing short of disgusting. It really hurts me to say this, but
I think from when they announced the season ticket prices to where we are now, I think the whole thing has been dealt with very badly.
Shambolic.
I think it's been a PR disaster. I think that the way that it's been dealt with, I think the club have built up so much goodwill with the fans and with everyone really over the past 3 years. You know, with backing Pochettino, developing this team, taking us to regular Champions League football. There's so much goodwill to be had here, and yet they've kind of, with the season ticket prices, with the lack of transparency over the stadium, it's kind of, they've lost a lot of goodwill with the fans, and it's going to be hard to kind of claim that back.
So you think they're losing the fans?
Well, I saw a poll on Twitter where there was only about 4,000 people who had polled. It was actually from the Fighting Cock, I believe, and they polled people whether they're Levy in, Levy out, or undecided. Levy in was still winning, so I believe that the fans are still on side for the moment. But I think the Levy out people are growing, and we don't want that to be the case. We want everyone to be pulling in the same direction. We want everyone to be behind the club 100%. The problem is they've got issues which are justified. That's the problem. And they need to and the board have to look into it hard to sort that out, because they need to look into what people are complaining about, and not just brush it off as if we're talking nonsense, because we're not. And the whole season ticket prices, you know, marketing the 1882 section as this big atmosphere section, and they're making those tickets the most expensive in the ground. That kind of stuff just rubs fans the wrong way. Making the season ticket prices the most expensive in
and let's be honest, that wasn't needed at all. These ticket prices were not needed. They make a profit of 12.5 million.
Even without fans,
without ticket sales, they make a profit of 12.5 million. They could have froze the ticket prices from White Hart Lane and still be all right.
Exactly, they're doubling their revenue anyway. That's what they're doing. I know the stadium's going to be expensive. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay for itself eventually. and £200 or however much they've increased the season ticket prices for each individual fan. For each individual fan, it's a lot of money, but for the club, it's not getting them that much more. It's really frustrating because they're literally doing it for minimal profits extra in the bank, and it's not going to be that much of a difference in terms of how the clubs run. It's just like they're doing it just for profits, and it's really frustrating. I know the stadium needs to be paid for. We understand that, but I think, football clubs are football clubs at the end of the day. We understand that there's a business side to it, and we can accept that. But when it gets to this kind of stage where...
It's all about transparency and communication. If they had that transparency and communicated with us like we were proper fans and normal fans, instead of just paying customers and little ants that they can crush on, you know what I mean, then we wouldn't have a problem with that.
Making an apology to the NFL before they make an apology to the fans.
It's disgusting.
Why are they doing that? How can the PR team not see that as an issue? I don't understand. And
it's absolutely a shambles what's going on at Spurs at the moment.
They need to sort it out.
They need to sort it out.
At the end of the day, when you look at the bigger picture, it doesn't look like it looks like we're complaining about very little. It looks like the stadium just got delayed two games. What's the big issue?
It's not about the stadium being delayed. It's not about that. It's about the way the club are treating the fans at the moment.
And we don't want this situation to turn toxic in any way. At the end of last season, there were already minimal protests, very small, but they were there. There were protests against Levy.
Me and you thought they weren't really warranted.
No, we didn't agree with them, but we still don't agree. I still don't think there should be protests at the moment, but doesn't mean those issues that can't be raised, which aren't justified. There are issues which are people well within their right to complain about, and I feel like they have a case.
Everyone talks about this Levy in and Levy out thing at the moment, but it's much more complex than that. Like, I'm on the fence at the moment. Like, I'm very angry with Levy, but then on the other side, I can see all the great work he has done for the club. But there are people out there, especially on Twitter, that are really, really worrying me. Really worrying. The reason it's worrying is not the actual Levy story. The reason it's worrying is because it's going to affect the team on the pitch if this negativity stems out into the crowd.
And that's what we want to avoid. We don't want that to be a situation. And that's why the board needs to give fans some goodwill. Because at the moment, it's just like kind of, for the new stadium anyway, it's kind of just PR disaster after PR disaster. And they need to sort that out. We don't want it to be a situation where there are protests in the stands or protests against the board or anything like that. That's just a nonsense that the club doesn't need. We need to be pulling together. We need to be back in the team. We've got a great team. I know we had no new signings, which is another issue.
But we still have
a fantastic team which can achieve things if the fans are all on side, if we're all together pulling as one. That's the whole point of this team. That's why we've been so great over the last 3 years. Everyone's been on board. We've been a big family, and we don't want to ruin that. But then the club are not helping themselves.
At the end of the day, the club need to give us answers. It's not just about the stadium. They need to give us answers what's happened this whole summer with the transfer window, with everything.
I agree.
But that's just where we're at the moment. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Are we blowing things out of proportion?
Oh, exactly.
Or do you think that we actually have a genuine case and there are genuine things to be argued against? If we look at the Man City game just quickly, that's to be confirmed, the venue. That if Wembley can't host there and if Spurs can't host there, where are we going to play that? We need answers and stuff like that, and it's just very frustrating. So let us know in the comments below what you guys think.
So like, comment, subscribe if you like our content. We'll be at Fulham at Wembley this weekend. And as always, come on you Spurs.